She wore my face, sold my house, and called it insurance before vanishing into the night.
Hi, I'm Marcus, 35, and 6 weeks ago I found a stranger living in my house. Not squatting, not breaking in, living. Plants, pets, Amazon packages with her name on them, a toothbrush in the bathroom, and a framed picture of her with my dog, the dog that I lost in a custody split with my ex. Which was weird, because this woman, she wasn't my ex. It started when I got a phone call from my old neighbor, Stan. "Hey, Marcus," he said, voice low, like he didn't want someone to hear him. "Listen, man, you moved out, what, almost 2 years ago?" "Yeah," I said slowly, confused. "Well, someone's living in your old house. Said they just bought it." "What?" I laughed. "Stan, I never sold it. I've been renting it out. I've got a property manager for that." "That's why I'm calling," he said, "because it's not your tenant. It's someone else entirely. Whole new furniture, new car, even a different dog." That made my blood run cold. "Wait, a dog?" "Little black and tan mutt," he said. "Name tag says Rocky." I sat straight up. My dog's name was Rocky, except I hadn't seen him in 18 months. When my ex and I split, she begged me to let her keep him. I caved. Because, as my friends kindly pointed out, I'm a spineless idiot who thinks being agreeable is the same as being kind. So how the hell was Rocky back in my house with some woman I didn't know? I ended the call with Stan and rang my property manager. She didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. Texted her. No response. That wasn't like her. Marcy was militant about communication. So I did what any normal person would do. I got in my car and drove the 3.5 hours back to my house. And when I pulled up, there was a blue Subaru in the driveway, a planter with fake sunflowers, and a home sweet home mat I'd never seen before. I knocked. A woman opened the door, late 20s, blonde, in sweats, barefoot, holding a coffee mug like she'd been expecting me. "Can I help you?" she asked, smiling politely. This is my house," I said, trying to stay calm. "No, it's mine. I bought it 2 months ago." She held up her phone. Sure enough, there was a Zillow listing. Closed. Sold. All legal. Her name on the paperwork. Except there was one tiny, gigantic problem. I hadn't sold the house. My name was still on the deed 6 weeks ago. And somehow this woman had moved in, changed the locks, and was walking my dog around the neighborhood like she owned the place. Rocky, bounding down the stairs behind her, saw me, stopped, cocked his head. Then he barked, once, and for a split second I saw the recognition in his eyes. But she turned and snapped her fingers. "Rocky, sit," she said. And he did, like he'd always been hers. I just stood there, stunned. "I'm going to need you to leave now," she said, her voice suddenly very flat. She closed the door. I heard the deadbolt click. I backed away, heart pounding, already pulling out my phone, because something was very, very wrong, and I was going to find out what. I didn't sleep that night. I drove to a motel off the highway and sat there in the dark, staring at my phone, refreshing Zillow, county records, email threads, anything to prove I wasn't going insane. And there it was, a closed sale, on my house, transferred from my name to hers. The name on the deed? Amelia Wren. Never heard of her in my life. I sent 5 messages to Marcy, my property manager. Then I called my lawyer, Daniel, who I hadn't spoken to since the divorce. "Marcus?" he said, groggy. "It's 1 a.m. "Daniel, someone stole my house." I explained everything. Zillow listing, the mystery woman, the dog, the fact that my name was still on the deed 6 weeks ago. Daniel whistled low. "That's not good. Do you have any tenants right now?" "I did, a couple from Maine. They moved out in August." "Okay," he said. "Text me the address and everything you've got. I'll pull the transaction record first thing in the morning." I didn't sleep. At 6:47 a.m., Daniel called. "Marcus, I think you were conned." "What?" According to the county record, the house was sold off-market through a legal proxy. Of what? Basically, someone posed as you, signed documents through a shady third-party agency, convinced a notary to stamp it. They even faked your ID. My mouth went dry. So it's identity theft. It looks like it. But here's the weird part. The buyer, this Amelia Wren, she paid in cash. No mortgage, no bank process. Just wired $415,000 to an escrow account that's now empty. So she got scammed too. Big time. A wave of confusion washed over me. If she wasn't the scammer, why did she act like she owned the place? Why did she seem so confident? I drove back to the house. Knocked again. This time, Amelia answered in jeans and a blazer, like she was heading to work. She sighed. Look, Marcus, I'm sorry if this is awkward, but I legally bought this house. I have documents, a title company. I paid real money. I know, I said. You were scammed, so was I. We need to talk. She hesitated. Then, shockingly, stepped aside and let me in. The second I walked through the door, my chest clenched. It was all the same layout, same windows, same floors, but it was like walking into someone else's dream. A yoga mat in the corner, ferns and hanging baskets, fairy lights, a framed print above the fireplace that said, "Breathe in, let go." Rocky padded towards me. Tail wagged once, then again. Amelia crouched beside him. "He's been through a lot," she said softly. "His old owner left him behind. My realtor found him in the backyard." My stomach turned. I never left him. He was taken. We sat at the kitchen table. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, sipping coffee like someone trying very hard to stay calm. When I finished, she said, "Marcus, you're saying you still own this house, but my lawyer says I do. We can't both be right." I nodded. "But we can both be victims." She frowned. "Then who's the criminal?" My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "Got a name. The fake you used a notary in Allentown. She says she worked with Marcy." I looked up at Amelia. "I think I know who sold you my house."
I sent Amelia the message from Daniel. Her eyes scanned it slowly, then shot up to meet mine. "Wait, you're saying your property manager forged the sale?" I nodded. "It's the only thing that makes sense. She had access, knew the lease was ending, knew you'd never meet me directly because it wasn't a traditional sale." Amelia leaned back in her chair, stunned. "That's not possible. Marcy was lovely. I trusted her. She walked me through everything. She even gave me a folder with Rocky's vet records." I stared at her. "You met Marcy in person?" "Yeah, briefly. She said you were traveling abroad and wanted to sell quietly." "No," I said. "I was at my new job in Pittsburgh. Never left the country. Never told anyone I was selling." Amelia looked like she'd been punched in the gut. "Oh my God." We sat in silence for a few seconds. Then she stood up, pacing, clearly rattled. "This is insane. I paid everything up front. Legit escrow, legit title company." "Fraudulent title company," I corrected gently. "Probably fake. Marcy must have set the whole thing up." Amelia's voice rose. "That's $415,000 gone, Marcus. I used my mom's inheritance. I scraped together everything I had. I don't even have a plan B." I wanted to feel bad for her, and I did, but part of me was still reeling from the fact that I'd been locked out of my own home, again. First by my ex, now by a stranger caught in someone else's lie. Rocky whined under the table, and I reached down and scratched behind his ears. His tail wagged harder this time. "I'm calling Daniel. You should get a lawyer too. We're going to need to coordinate." Amelia nodded stiffly and disappeared into the other room. I heard her voice shaking on the phone. 10 minutes later, she came back, pale but composed. "My lawyer wants to meet us both today. Can you come downtown at 3? I checked my watch. It was 12:45. "I'll be there." Before I left, I looked at Rocky one more time. "Hey, buddy, you remember me, don't you?" He licked my hand. Not definitive, but enough to squeeze my heart a little. Amelia gave me a long look. "You really loved him, huh?" "Still do." We met at her lawyer's office, a polished place with modern art and soft jazz humming in the background. Amelia looked sharp now, hair tied back, blazer buttoned. I still looked like a guy who drove 3 hours and hadn't slept. Her lawyer, Miss Patel, was a sharp-eyed woman who wasted no time. Let's cut to it. You're both victims. This Marcy character coordinated the fraud. We've confirmed the title company used was dissolved 2 years ago. The wire transfers were funneled through a shell LLC. This was a planned professional con. And the house? I asked. Miss Patel inhaled slowly. Technically, yes, it's still legally yours, Marcus. The fraudulent sale was never valid. But Amelia has been living here in good faith. That makes her a bona fide purchaser, which complicates things. So what does that mean? Amelia asked. It means until a judge sorts this out, neither of you can claim full control of the property. If you want to avoid months of litigation, you'll have to work something out. I blinked. Like what? Miss Patel folded her hands. Cohabitation agreement. Temporary. Amelia and I both stared at her. You want us to live together? I said, incredulous. You want your dog back? Amelia shot back. I looked at her. She looked at me. And somewhere deep in the middle of all this chaos, a small voice in my head muttered, "Oh, this is going to be a disaster." We drew up the agreement that same afternoon. 2 adults, 1 house, no romantic tension, no weird vibes, just forced cohabitation with a woman I met 2 days ago who unknowingly bought my house using stolen identity paperwork and claimed my dog. It felt like the plot of a really unfunny sitcom. We agreed on neutral territory. She'd take the upstairs guest room. I'd sleep downstairs in what used to be my office. We'd share the kitchen, laundry, and Rocky. Yes, shared custody of the dog. The clause in the agreement read, Rocky shall be walked alternately and cared for by both parties on a rotating daily schedule unless otherwise agreed to in writing. I'm not making that up. It was in the contract. Miss Patel was terrifyingly thorough. That first night back in my house was surreal. I stood in the living room watching Amelia move through the kitchen like she'd lived there for years, which in fairness, she had. She reached up to grab a mug from the exact cupboard I used to keep them in. She even used my old kettle, the one with the melted plastic handle I'd always meant to replace. Meanwhile, I was trying to figure out where to stash my overnight bag and how not to spiral into a panic attack. You okay? She asked, noticing me standing awkwardly in the doorway. I'm fine, just having an out-of-body experience in my own living room. Normal stuff. She smiled a little. I get it. This is weird for me too. Rocky trotted up and dropped his toy at my feet. I picked it up and threw it across the room. He darted after it like a rocket. So, Amelia said, leaning on the counter, what do you do anyway? I work in logistics, supply chain stuff. You? I'm a therapist. I stared. Like for people? No, for raccoons. She deadpanned. Yes, for people. Of course, the woman now living in my house and low-key making me feel like a squatter had a job that made her morally superior and emotionally equipped to navigate a hostage-style housing situation. That explains the diffuser and 12 calming candles in the bathroom, I muttered. You surprised you noticed? I nearly sneezed my face off. It smells like eucalyptus and judgment in there. She laughed, and I hated how weirdly good that made me feel. Look, she said after a pause, this sucks, but I'm not your enemy. I didn't know this was a scam. I believed Marcy. I believed you. Fake you, whatever. I just wanted a fresh start. I nodded, even though my fists were clenched in my pockets. I still wasn't sure if I was angry at her or just at everything. I'm not blaming you, I said, but let's not pretend this is normal. You're technically trespassing in my home. She stiffened. Well, technically, I paid nearly $500,000 to live here, so... Fair point. Silence stretched between us. Rocky, sensing tension, dropped his toy again and barked once. Joint therapy? I offered, nodding at him. She snorted. He's the healthiest one here. We agreed to split the grocery bill, avoid passive-aggressive post-it notes, and take turns with the trash night. By 11 p.m., I was lying on a lumpy couch downstairs, staring at the ceiling and wondering how my life had spiraled into a Craigslist roommate nightmare, with legal documents and shared dog custody. I finally closed my eyes and drifted off, only to wake up at 2 a.m. to screaming upstairs. Hi, panicked. Amelia! I bolted upright, heart pounding. Then I heard it. Heavy footsteps. Not hers. Someone else was in the house, and I hadn't changed the locks.
I didn't think. I moved. Bolted off the couch, nearly tripping over Rocky, who was growling low and sharp, then tore up the stairs 2 at a time. "Amelia!" I shouted. "What happened?" She was standing just outside the guest room, hair wild, barefoot, clutching a lamp like she was about to play Major League Baseball with someone's face. "There's a man," she hissed, eyes wide. "He tried to open the bedroom door." I was already scanning the hallway. Empty. Quiet now. Too quiet. Where did he go? I don't know. I slammed the door, screamed, and he ran. I heard the back screen slam. I rushed down to the kitchen, threw the back door open, and sure enough, the screen was swinging. I ran out barefoot like an idiot and made it halfway into the yard before realizing I was in boxers and a t-shirt and it was 38 degrees. No sign of him. Back inside, Amelia was pacing the living room, lamp still in hand. Rocky was at full alert, growling toward the back door. I grabbed my phone and called the police. 20 minutes later, they were combing the property with flashlights, while one officer took our statements. "Did you see the man's face?" "No," Amelia said. "He had a hoodie. I think he was white? Average height? I don't know. It happened fast." "Nothing was taken," I added, "but the back door doesn't lock properly. The latch has been loose for months." The officer gave us a look. "You'll want to fix that. Immediately." They left around 3:15 a.m. Amelia and I sat in silence on the couch, jittery and exhausted. "I thought he was going to hurt me," she whispered. "He jiggled the handle so slowly, like he was testing it. Not breaking in, just checking." Chills ran down my spine. "Marcy," I said slowly. "What?" "Think about it. You said she gave you the keys. She knew when I'd be gone. She knew everything. What if she's not done?" Amelia's eyes widened. "You think she sent someone?" "I think someone's watching this house, and I think we both need to stop pretending this is just a paperwork screw-up." She hugged her knees to her chest. I didn't know what to do. Comfort her, leave her alone? I barely knew this woman, but I did know the house, every creak, every weak lock, every place a person could hide. I stood up and said, "Pack a bag." She blinked. "What?" "You're not sleeping in that room tonight. You're moving downstairs. Locks are better, and I'm not letting anyone try that again while you're here." She didn't argue. We barricaded the doors, put chairs under the knobs, and took turns sleeping on the couch. Rocky stationed himself in the hallway like a tiny four-legged security system, loyal to no side, just always present. At some point around 5 a.m., Amelia whispered in the dark, "Why would someone break into a house that's already occupied?" It was a good question, and I didn't have a good answer. But deep down, I was starting to think that break-in wasn't a break-in. It was a message. The next morning felt like the hangover after a nightmare. I barely slept. Amelia looked worse. Her eyes were red-shot, hair in a messy braid, sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder like she'd forgotten how to wear clothes properly. I didn't say anything. We were both too fried for small talk. I made coffee. She accepted it silently. Rocky took one look at us, yawned, and curled up on the floor like, "Good luck with that, idiots." At 9 a.m., I called Daniel. "You were right, Deldium. Someone tried to break in last night. Amelia saw him. Might have come through the backyard. Nothing taken, but the back door was open." Daniel cursed under his breath. "Okay, you need to report that officially." "Already did. Cops came, took statements. But here's the thing. Amelia said something that stuck with me. She said it felt like the guy wasn't trying to rob us. He was testing something." Daniel went quiet. Then, "That tracks." "With what?" "I've been digging into Marcy's financials. She's been under investigation for fraud in 2 counties. Her license was suspended last year." My stomach twisted. How did I not know this? Because she used a fake management company to front everything. You thought you were paying her. You were paying them. I think she was using your house as part of a long con, and it's possible there's more than one person involved. I glanced at Amelia, still hugging her mug like it held emotional stability. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the break-in last night might not have been about the house, might have been about her." After I hung up, I told Amelia everything. Her face went pale. "She knew where I worked," she said, voice shaking. "She knew my mom had just died. I told her during a showing. She asked where the inheritance came from. I thought she was being empathetic."
She was being opportunistic, I said. She saw you as a target, just like she saw me. We were both quiet for a long time. Then Amelia whispered, "You don't think she's coming back, do you?" I looked at the back door, at the cheap lock, at the empty space where my home security system used to be before Marcy had it removed for aesthetic reasons. "I think," I said carefully, "we need to make it impossible for her too." That day, we went full fortress mode. I installed a new deadbolt, replaced the back door latch, bought motion sensors from Home Depot and put one in every corner of the yard. Amelia ordered pepper spray and a stun gun from Amazon with next-day delivery, like she'd been waiting for an excuse. Then we did something that surprised even me. We got in her car and drove to the notary's office listed on the fake paperwork. The woman behind the counter looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. I handed her the photo Daniel had sent me of the forged document with her stamp. "Do you remember notarizing this?" She peered at it, then frowned. "Nope." "Are you sure?" Amelia asked, voice sharp. "Because your name's on it, and if this was faked, that's a felony." The woman squinted again, then blinked. "Wait, this wasn't done here. You're saying someone faked your notary seal?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "It happens more than you'd think." We exchanged a long look. Fake notary, fake sale, fake company, but real consequences. Back in the car, Amelia said, "You realize this isn't just fraud anymore. It's a network." I nodded grimly. "And we're sitting in the middle of it." Rocky, in the back seat, whined softly, and for once, I couldn't tell if he was just bored or scared too.
The next night, we didn't sleep. We watched. Every creak of the floorboards made us flinch. Every car that passed slowed just a little too much. The motion sensors blinked once around 3 a.m., but when I went outside with a flashlight, nothing was there. Or so I thought. At 3:47 a.m., my phone lit up. "Daniel, check your inbox, now." I opened the email. It was a video file. Security cam footage from a bank Marcy had once worked with. Daniel had a contact there. The video was grainy, but the timestamp was last week. It showed Marcy, standing in line, wearing my face, or at least a shockingly good prosthetic mask of me. Thin beard, dark hair, same hoodie I wore in my license photo. She handed the teller an ID, my ID. "I think she's setting you up," Daniel said when I called him. "She's not just stealing your identity, she's becoming you." My blood turned to ice. Amelia was staring at me across the living room. She knew something had changed. "What is it?" she asked. I turned the laptop toward her and hit play. She watched silently. And then she said something that chilled me more than the video. "That's not just a disguise, Marcus. That's someone who's not finished with you yet." Rocky barked, loud, sharp. And this time, we both heard it. Footsteps. On the roof. I grabbed the flashlight. Amelia grabbed the stun gun. Rocky growled so deep it vibrated the floorboards. We crept out the back door, every porch step creaking like it had a death wish. I flicked on the beam, sweeping the roofline. Nothing. Then, scuff. Far side, just out of view. I backed up into the yard and aimed the light higher. There she was, Marcy, perched on the edge of the roof like some suburban gargoyle, dressed in black, mask in hand, my face dangling from her fingers. "Jesus Christ," I muttered. She didn't flinch, didn't run. She just looked at me, at us, and smiled. "You should have sold it when I told you to, but no, Marcus wanted to be difficult." I stepped forward. "Get down." "Why? So you can call the cops and cry? I already made more off this than you ever will." Amelia raised the stun gun. "Try me, lady." Marcy rolled her eyes and dropped something from her pocket. I flinched, then realized it was a flash drive. It landed at my feet. "What is this?" I asked. "Insurance," she said. "I'm not going down alone." Then, like a freaking action movie villain, she jumped, landed like a gymnast on the neighbor's shed roof, and vanished into the dark. By the time the cops arrived, she was long gone. But the flash drive, it was full of everything. Fake IDs, shell company records, recorded calls, even photos of me pulled from social media, used to build the disguise. Daniel said it was enough for a federal case. The FBI agreed. Marcy was caught 3 weeks later in Florida, trying to sell another off-market house using a fake identity and a rubber nose. Amelia cried when she heard the news, not out of fear, out of relief. As for the house,
Daniel filed a motion, and after a drawn-out hearing, the court declared the sale void. Ownership reverted fully to me. But I didn't kick Amelia out. She didn't want to stay. Instead, she hugged me goodbye, kissed Rocky on the head, and said, "Thank you for believing me, for not hating me." I didn't say anything, just handed her a set of keys. Anytime. 3 months later, I still live here. It's quiet now, peaceful. Rocky's snoring beside me as I write this. I installed real cameras, got a new lock, new paint, new life. And when I sit on the porch at night, I don't feel bitter, just lucky. Because that house I thought I'd lost, it gave me back more than a home. It gave me my spine.